One, a two, a one.
It's time for the Better Horses radio show. So let's saddle up and ride as we explore the Western way of life, horses and cows, family and friends, a relationship with the land, and a relationship with God. It's all here on Better Horses Radio. Now let's hit the trails with the Better Horses team.
And you're listening to Better Horses Radio, where we deep dive into the Western way of life. From the dirt in the arena to the faith in our hearts. Hello, everyone. My name's Ed Adams, and joining me today, the always enthusiastic and also very insightful Susie Arbo. Susie, welcome to Better Horses.
Hey, Ed. Thank you so much. I am so glad to be here today joining you. Usually it's Merle on the show with you.
Yeah, I appreciate you co-hosting. So tell the listeners now where you're at and what's the view at your saddle this week.
Yeah, so actually we are out in Las Vegas, Nevada, and Ed, we came in here just right off of the tail of the NFR, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners were able to capture and take in the NFR this year. I mean, amazing equine athletes, amazing human athletes, great shows, great production, amazing rodeo staff. And the stock as well was really cool. So, and then we got to see, it was really fun on Sunday. They had a big team roping event where they had thousands of runs of team roping. It's a World Series. And so we got in on that. We got to meet some really cool people and take in the vendors and, everything Vegas when it comes to the NFR and kind of that. And now we're here. Merle is a American Quarter Horse judge. And so every couple of years, they have all of their judges attend a big seminar. And they do days of intensive meetings and trainings where they learn, about being a great judge and anything from ethics, to, how they score and, give points to horses or take points away. And so it's been really fascinating. Lots of cowboy hats around Vegas.
If you ever read those rule books, it is amazing these judges can keep up with everything that's going on and with all the changes.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. And those rule books, they tell you, what you need to know. And so get familiar with them. Every breed, every association from NSBA to AQHA to the Pinto Association, they all have their own rule books. And so make sure you know them.
Yeah, especially if you're showing a horse. But we get to talk about horses.
Yes, I'm excited. I'm very excited. And we are actually today, we are going to be talking about the horse-human connection. And that's what we love to talk about. But we want to talk about how it goes between a barn owner's passion and actually their pocketbook. And so we're going to talk about the economics of horse boarding. And let me tell you, in 2025, those numbers are doing some interesting dancing, Ed.
They sure are. And now, when people see a big, beautiful barn, Susie, and they think it's a gold mine, right? So, but you're in the industry and you know what boarding often feels like. It's kind of like a four-letter word when it comes to the bottom line. We've seen the industry. Now, the industry's grown about $2.5 billion this year. But for the individual barn owner, the profit margins are thinner like a worn-out saddle blanket.
That is so true, Ed. And I was looking at some recent data, and the reality is that many facilities are barely even breaking even on the board itself. For example, like a high demand areas like California, we're seeing monthly rates for a single 12 by 12 jump stall as high as $1,100. And that's just covering the basics, like as far as cleaning, feeding, and maintenance goes. And that doesn't even include the real feed itself.
And I've been into a lot of other businesses in my career and seen a lot of verticals, but I've never seen anything quite like this because it's a passion tax, right? We're always talking about it, and people get into these because they love horses, but they forget that the horses basically they're hard on the infrastructure and they've got fixed costs like land and barn itself, fencing and insurance that just sit there, whether your horse is in the stall or not. And it doesn't even get me started when you're talking about the depreciation of equipment, such as tractors, trailers, ATVs. You know how that works.
Exactly. And Ed, for the folks that are listening who are thinking about starting up a barn, the startup costs in 2025 can actually range anywhere from $50,000 to over $500,000, depending on the location and the luxury level. You can do as much or as little as you want in this arena. But once you're set up and running, you've got to decide on your board type. There's several different ways that you can have a boarding barn. Some people offer, like in our barn, for instance, we offer full board, where the staff does everything. We have 2 to 3 shifts coming in a day that are cleaning, that kind of thing, and they're feeding, they're doing turnout. We've got a hot walker, people are lunging horses, exercising them, and that can be anywhere from $700 to $1,200 a month. So that's full board. And then there's another type of board called pasture board. And this is kind of a more affordable option for a lot of people, depending on where you're at in the nation. It can go anywhere from $150 a month to $400. And some luxury pastures, though, with shelters can hit, $1,000 in prime areas. So that's pasture board. And then the last type that we're going to talk about is what we call self-care. And that is where, you are just renting that space for your horse. And so that means that the owner of that space doesn't take care of the horse at all, but it's up to the owner. And so it's a whole lot different as far as the management headache.
Yeah, it really is. And the insurance, and it's a really big risk when you're going into self-care. Now, it's no real secret. So if you want to call it that, now the boarding is rarely the whole business. Now, smart operators use boarding they subsidize it, the facility, so they can make a real profit in like lessons, training, and sales. So adding it all up as like a la carte services, Susie, you've seen this. You're charging for extra blanketing, soaking, hooves, as you mentioned, holding the horse for the farrier, that kind of stuff. So you can figure out all sorts of ways to try to make a dollar here.
Yeah, and Ed, even years ago, I remember training with some trainers that every little extra thing they did for you at the show, they added into your cost. So whether they're putting a tail in or whatever, so that's kind of the same kind of thing or whatever is adding in some of those nominal costs. But you know what, you do have to account for unpredictable expenses too if you run a boarding barn, like repairs, specialized diets. A lot of our horses in our barn are on smart packs. So that's just an additional time that are divvied out just to giving those vitamins. And the fact that labor is just getting harder and harder to find, and it's more expensive to keep. When you have McDonald's paying $20 an hour, and whatnot, it can be hard to keep up with that. And a well-managed barn might aim for 50% profit margin on paper, but one bad month of facility repairs can wipe that out.
And that's exactly right. It's a labor of love, no doubt about it. But our listeners who, board their horses, it's worth remembering that when your barn owner raises the rates, they aren't trying to buy a new truck. They're really just trying to keep the hayloft full. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And just a couple of winters, short winters ago, we had a whole nation shortage of hay, and it was expensive to get it. So it's about professional care and that peace of mind, knowing that your horse is in a constant routine with experts watching over them. And it's an investment in your horse's health and your own sanity, to be honest.
Yeah, it really is. And that's why in this episode, Susie, I want to grab some guests and I want to talk about the business model in boarding barns. And I want to have you wrap it up with us, and we'll talk about the mental challenges people have when they're working all by themselves all day long. So amen to everything you said. We're going to take a quick look at all of this with some really exciting guests coming up. But before we do that, let's take a break and let's go into our Better Cattle segment with our very own Mark Oppold. Mark?
Well, thanks, Ed. Great to be with you and to be part of the team here. As always, really enjoy these weekly updates and being able to kind of glean what we can from different analysts and be helpful to viewers, listeners out there, and just bottom line, making better cattle and ending up with better cattle and profits that make sense to us. But we're at that time of the year. Here we come. That this week will be the last real trading week of the year. The next 2 weeks, we know, not interrupted, but will certainly be affected by the Christmas holiday next Thursday, and then New Year's, the week after that. So there'll be a lot of traders that will be heading to the sidelines even as we get through this week, necessarily. Have a cattle on feed report, though. That is something that out there on Friday, it's after the close, so it'll be next Monday, the 22nd, before we can the trade can react to that, and we wonder what kind of trade volume there'll be at that time. A lot of analysts that I have read and I want to pass on that They caution that a friendly cattle on feed report Friday doesn't really automatically extend to a friendly cattle market into 2026. We do expect the report obviously to show continued tight feeder supplies. Total on-feed number still again near 11.5 million head. Look for less than 2 million placed on feed. That would be during November, and that would be down 7-8% or so from a year ago. Now, retaining heifers, that continues to be a big question for a lot of producers out there, holding them back for breeding or placing them on feed. Some producers in the Corn Belt, especially, we know, Ed, deal with these low corn prices by, quote, walking corn off the feedlot next summer and fall. We could see herd expansion, but that'll take, as we know, all of next year and into 2027 before it really obviously makes an impact for the low numbers that we have right here and now. Speaking of numbers, we look at the gap resistance from late October on the February live cattle contract is up at 232, 233 and a bit more. Looks a bit overbought to some, but open interest is near the lowest of the year. Keep that in mind as you're watching this live cattle, feeder cattle trade here this week and I guess the next 2 weeks really. Some of these, a big movement either direction really doesn't mean that the trade is really leaning that direction. It's just that open interest is low, so managed money longs in this market can flush around with this market without a lot of resistance. So keep that in mind. February live cattle above 232.5 would signal more buying with support back around 222 in our view. Now, March feeder cattle below the 330 level would be first support as we look forward. Highs last week near that 340 level. That's likely the most that we're going to be able to expect from now. Weather not going to be a factor. Boy, it sure was over the weekend, but certainly weather not an issue south of I-70. Now it is north of I-80. We keep that in mind as well. And we'll have our Christmas on the Farm. It's a poem that I wrote many years ago. Ed, going to share that next week. But right now, we wish everyone a profitable week ahead.
And thank you, Mark, and we appreciate that Better Cattle segment. And now, coming up, from Lone Jack, Missouri, Kelly Sitter at Sitter Downs Horse Boarding and Arena. Why don't you stick around? You're listening to Better Horses Radio. I'm your host, Ed Adams.
And hey, everybody, it's Susie Arbo.
And we'll be right back right after these messages.
Get quality you can stand on. Hoof Grip is the proprietary formula that provides shock absorption for your animals with no ice buildup, slipping, cracking, or sogginess, making it the safest, most comfortable, and maintenance-free flooring on the market. Hoof Grip installs quickly and easily over existing surfaces, is easy to clean, and withstands extreme heat or cold. From vet offices to barns, wash racks to trailers and more. Visit hoofgrip.com to find a dealer in your area today.
Hey, it's Matt at Heritage Tractor. Around here, we don't just sell tractors. We stand behind what we run. And we believe the difference between John Deere and the rest is more than just paint deep. We put the John Deere 1025R head-to-head against the competition. Spoiler alert, it wasn't even close. From smarter hydraulics to easier maintenance and a smoother ride, the 1025R was built for real work, not just showroom specs. Want proof? See the side-by-side results at heritagetractor.com. Or better yet, stop in and feel the difference for yourself.
Routine dental examination and treatments are essential for high-quality horse care. To prevent potential problems, a horse's mouth should be examined at least once a year. I'm Dr. Chris Blevins, Equine Field Service Veterinarian at Kansas State University Veterinary Health Center. We can examine the mouth and provide a treatment plan to meet the needs of each client and their horse. Visit us at ksvhc.org, the Veterinary Health Center, to discover, to teach, to heal.
Established in 1956, the Pinto Horse Association of America was formed to welcome all types of equines and maintain their show records and pedigrees. PTHA currently has over 88,000 members with 157,000 registered pintos. There are currently 3 separate registries: the Color Registry, the Solid Registry, and the Long Ear Registry. We welcome all levels of competition within a family-friendly environment. Become a member, register, and add value to your horse. For more information, check out the website pintoworld.com.
And welcome back to Better Horses Radio. This is where we get to deep dive in the heart of the equine world. I'm your host, Ed Adams. And this week, we're looking into the economics of boarding barns and the different types of models that remain relevant and profitable. And I'm thrilled to welcome a very special guest who is the cornerstone of the regional horse community. Her name is Kelly Sitter-McComb, and she's with Sitter Downs Horse Boarding and Arena in Lone Jack, Missouri. Now, Kelly isn't just a guest. Now, she represents the legacy of equine excellence that has been rooted in Lone Jack, Missouri since 1989. So for over 3 decades, Sitter Downs has provided a sanctuary for horses and riders, growing from a family operation into a premier destination for those seeking more than just a place to house their horse. So, as a leader and into the community, Kelly is a prominent figure in the trail horse industry. She's well known for her expertise in trail horse sales, lessons, and training, and her facility has a very vibrant hub for local horse communities. Now, she can frequently hosts clinics and seminars, equine wellness, and she even has, and I'll get her to talk about it, the famous tack swab. So I'm going to add her to our conversation. I'm happy to introduce Kelly Sitter-McComb. Kelly, welcome to Better Horses.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I appreciate you coming on and joining us. Now, the first question that we always get when we're talking about boarding facilities is when the phone rings and they said, do you have pasture board or stall boarding? It's mostly stall boarding, but you have a unique position where you have 130 acres out there and you do all pasture board. And that's kind of unusual in the boarding horse facility. Is that fair?
Yes, we were blessed to get this property in late 1988 into 1989. And my parents had an idea on how to build this property from what used to be a dairy farm to a horse boarding operation. And so for the last 36 years, we have had cross-fenced rotational grazing here. We feed hay during the winter, and then they graze usually from mid-April till, just depending on moisture, October to November on pastures.
So we'll talk about the expense of running up just a pasture board, but from a boarders facility, you're throwing close to 65 head of horses out in just one area. What's that like from a challenge perspective of horses? And give us your thoughts on that.
Currently, we have 58. Our max is 65. And our pastures, we have 7 different sections of pasture that we rotate through. Sections meaning they all range in different sizes. The biggest is 25 acres and the smallest is 9 acres. And we closely monitor, of course, herd health, herd dynamics, but really it's a mixed group of mares and geldings. We don't take any horses that are under a year and a half years old. They're usually a little too immature to be in a social structure like that. But we very rarely have any drama. And I mean, there's so many dynamics to it. We're monitoring our herd dynamics. We run a mixed group of mares and geldings together. We don't take any horses usually that are under a year and a half years old, as we've found in the last 36 years of doing this. Some of those horses are just too immature to be in a big herd. It's very interesting growing up watching the dynamics of these horses. They all have their little groups. Our pastures range different sizes. So we have 7 different sections of pasture that we rotate through during the grazing season. The biggest one is 25 acres, and then the smallest one is 9 acres. So, and I'd like to note that we don't graze 24/7. Our horses are up on what we call a dry lot. It's 15 acres, and we keep them penned up from 7 in the morning till 1 p.m. during our grazing season. So these horses all have plenty of time to not be packed together. They can spread out. It's really interesting to watch the social dynamic of this herd. They all have different groups that they hang out with. They have different leaders. We do have the resident horses that have been here for 20, 25 years, and they're kind of the leaders of the group until they get a little too old, and the new leaders take place. And that's always been fun to just watch and see the changes in the dynamics of this herd.
When they look at your place and you say pasture board, you're able to discount that for a lot of people that need a price break. So with that in mind, that kind of dives into your margins, but you augment that through clinics and seminars, and you have a beautiful indoor facility. So let's talk about that and how that helps you from a business perspective in producing really good state-of-the-art type indoor facility, but actually getting you some additional revenue. Is that helpful, or where's the challenges on clinics and seminars?
It is helpful. It's been 10 years. This next spring will be how long we've had our indoor arena. We built it out of a pasture that used to be grazing space. It's my job, I guess you could say, to organize and host horsemanship clinics, equine seminars with equine professionals, and our tack swaps, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. But it's nice to be able to provide an avenue for our boarders and local horsemen to gain a little bit more expertise in their equine skills, in everything from being under saddle to training to groundwork to obstacles, you name it. We host some ranch roping clinics. We host cattle clinics, lots of opportunity to get your horses on cattle. And, it's nice to have the building there for our boarders. Also, though, our facility is right across the road from an almost 1,800 acre county equestrian park called Blue and Gray Park here in Jackson County, Missouri. And so a lot of our boarders are primarily trail riders, but it's also fun to watch them build their horsemanship in our arena, which we built just 10 years ago.
And we wouldn't do you justice if we didn't say right up front from professional trainers around the country that love to go to a facility where they can host a clinic and have a facility that they can operate under with is a very relaxed state-of-the-art facility that you have. And that's absolutely fantastic. And let's talk about that. You also do equine wellness, and we also talk about a famous tack swap that started off pretty small, but now got to be one of the biggest regional things going on. Talk to me about that, and why did you do that?
The tack swap. First of all, I'm a professional tack hoarder. I love buying vintage tack, spurs, bits, silver, anything collectible. I personally own about 200 sets of antique bridle rosettes, which are very hard to find. And through that, back when I trained full time, I used to train trail horses full time. I've bought and sold quite a few horses and helped people sell horses. I would always run into people had not very good tack, or they had ill-fitting tack for the horses that they wanted to buy or the horses that they were currently riding. And so it's been, in my opinion, if you're going to go and spend a ton of money on a trail horse or any horse in general, let's say, let's make sure you've got the right gear to do it. So that's where these tack swaps started. I met a few local, tack salesmen, saddle shops, got them together, kind of spread the word and said, look, like if I have this much stuff to get rid of, I'm sure you do too. So it's turned into where we used to have maybe 10 or 15 people setting up to now, over my last swap in October, was over 60 vendors, and we had over 1,000 people come through the place. Parking gets a little crazy, but we have food all day. Just this past year, I added live music for all day, and it's so much fun. It's my favorite event. I love hosting, of course, all the clinicians. We've got some amazing clinicians that come through, and all the people that I meet through that, but the tack swaps are probably my favorite. So our next one will be April 26th coming up also, by the way.
We'll put that on our calendar. But Kelly, for people wanting to get into your type of environment of pasture boarding into a grand scale like this, what is one piece of advice you'd like to give them before they get started?
I tell people who board or call us and ask for ideas on boarding. What do you charge? How did you do it? Where did you get your insurance? How do you figure out your pasture layout? How do you figure out your stall cleaners? It's hard. So the best thing that someone could do who wants to get into boarding is to own your own property and keep your own horses so you know what it takes to do it. It's not easy at all. It doesn't make very much money. It can if you do it right, but horses are expensive, and to provide for them is very expensive, especially the last few years. Hay prices have gone up. Diesel fuel for your tractors have gone up. So is gas, of course. The cost of shavings for stalls. Insurance is ridiculous. But just know what you're getting into. Don't be afraid of it, but just know you need to have an idea, you need to have a plan, and you need to ask around and talk to the professionals in your area, get a better understanding of what your market would be and what would be best for your design of your boarding business.
You know, it's more than just boarding. You have a love for this, and you're kind of you kind of build your own barn family, if you'd like me to coin that phrase for you. But your longevity in boarders, and you've been doing it for over 15 years. Your passion is amazing, and you're really raising the experience for a lot of people, and listening to people. And I think that's absolutely fabulous. And so herd management, the future of equine community is resting on your shoulders. It's been a very pleasure to talk to you. I enjoyed riding with you. For those who out there who don't know, we've ridden together, and we've done a lot of things together. But I want to tell you that I'd like to have you come back on and appreciate the economics of the boarding facility. And this is just pasture board as we talk to Kelly Sitter-McComb over there at the Sitter Downs Arena. Kelly, thank you for joining Better Horses Radio.
Yes, thanks for having me.
All right, everyone, I want you to stay with us. We've got more Better Horses coming your way right after these messages. We'll be right back.
Get quality you can stand on. Hoof Grip is the proprietary formula that provides shock absorption for your animals with no ice buildup, slipping, cracking, or sogginess, making it the safest, most comfortable, and maintenance-free flooring on the market. Hoof Grip installs quickly and easily over existing surfaces, is easy to clean, and withstands extreme heat or cold. From vet offices to barns, wash racks to trailers and more. Visit hoofgrip.com to find a dealer in your area today.
Hey, it's Matt at Heritage Tractor. Around here, we don't just sell tractors. We stand behind what we run. And we believe the difference between John Deere and the rest is more than just paint deep. We put the John Deere 1025R head-to-head against the competition. Spoiler alert, it wasn't even close. From smarter hydraulics to easier maintenance and a smoother ride, the 1025R was built for real work, not just showroom specs. Want proof? See the side-by-side results at heritagetractor.com. Or better yet, stop in and feel the difference for yourself.
Routine dental examination and treatments are essential for high-quality horse care. To prevent potential problems, a horse's mouth should be examined at least once a year. I'm Dr. Chris Blevins, Equine Field Service Veterinarian at Kansas State University Veterinary Health Center. We can examine the mouth and provide a treatment plan to meet the needs of each client and their horse. Visit us at ksvhc.org, the Veterinary Health Center, to discover, to teach, to heal.
Established in 1956, the Pinto Horse Association of America was formed to welcome all types of equines and maintain their show records and pedigrees. PTHA currently has over 88,000 members with 157,000 registered pintos. There are currently 3 separate registries: the Color Registry, the Solid Registry, and the Long Ear Registry. We welcome all levels of competition within a family-friendly environment. Become a member, register, and add value to your horse. For more information, check out the website pintoworld.com.
And welcome back to Better Horses Radio as we talk about the economics of barns and how to run them. I am pleased to have Alexis Losey, who's a professional trainer at Crown One Farms in Missouri, and she has a very different job description, and not only job description, but she has a different business model as far as trainers. First of all, let's welcome Alexis Losey to Better Horses Radio. Hello, Alexis.
Hi, Ed. How's it going?
Good. Well, I'd like to ask you now, as a professional trainer, you were running a boarding barn and you were running a training barn, and you changed your entire business model. Can you walk me through that and some of the disadvantages and advantages of doing it?
Yeah, so about 5 years ago, I had a boarding barn. I had a small boarding barn, a small facility. At the peak, I only have 7 stalls in my facility. So 7 horses, and my model is I'm a dressage instructor. So if you're going to board at my facility, you have to be in training with me. And that worked for, a number of years. And one year my help left. They bought their own facility, which, happens. Great for them. And so there went my stall cleaners. And now I'm having to clean stalls, and finding new people to clean your stalls can be difficult. And so I was doing it for a while, and then I decided, well, you know what? I'm just going to cut back on my amount of horses that I have in training, because I was also teaching horses outside of my facility. So that was half of my business. And the more I kept cutting back on horses at my facility, the less cleaning I had to do, which was great for me, right? And so it eventually got to I only had 4 horses at my barn, and eventually 2. And I just never kept bringing horses back into training at my place, because I found I was going to other people's facilities to teach at their lovely properties. And then I had less work to do, and I didn't have to hire help, a barn manager. I had none of those expenses. And so now I do not have any horses at my property, and I solely go out. And yes, I drive now to all my clients, but I don't have now the wear and tear on my barn. I don't have a lot of extra costs. I don't have to find barn help. And I'm actually really liking it a lot.
Right. So this way you're able to cut your expenses, but you keep your top line fairly fast and then, as we all talked about it throughout this radio, is labor's a big issue more than anything else. So did you find that you have now a beautiful barn at your place, but the usage of that barn, do you ever do clinics or anything to that sort, or is that something you haven't experimented with?
No, I still have only a handful of people who will haul in to take lessons and use my indoor arena. But other than that, like I said, it's a small property, so I don't have great parking for big clinics or anything of that sort. And I don't want to rent it out, because then you have a whole different ball of wax to deal with, that I don't really want the hassle of somebody else being on my property. Even though that would bring in income, it's still a hassle. So,
well, not to mention the insurance that you also have to cover when you bring people on.
Yes.
So this business model is basically you're outsourcing your entire talent, and you're basically not housing anybody, but there's still a lot of people that like to do that more than anything else. Do you miss the horses on your property, or is that a big transition? You're looking at me, and the listening audience needs to look at this. She's looking at me and goes, no, are you crazy? But you still get your horse fixed by all the properties you get to go to, and you're still riding a lot of horses.
I have owned horses for 35 years, taken care of my own horses for 35 years. And so now it's like, I don't have to go out and feed in the morning. I don't have to go clean stalls. I was really surprised that I actually don't miss it. So no, I ride a lot of horses every day. So I completely get my horse fix. I get to go see beautiful barns. A lot of my clients, have beautiful facilities. So I am not in need or in lack of having my horse fix.
Now, I like this conversation because there are a lot of highly trained, talented professional riders that just give it up. And so you've created a model where you can still stay very much engaged with all of your horses and all of your clients, yet you're not having that big labor-intensive care and custody of horses, but you're able to keep a solid income. And you and I both know there are a lot of people that just need hours on the seat for these horses. And do they actually go to you and say, hey, can you just ride these horses for us?
That's a lot of my clients, yeah. I could fill every single day with just people wanting me to keep their horses in shape, because, amateurs, they still work, they don't have time. So there is a great need for trainers just to sit in the saddle of these horses and take them out and do all the things that horses need to be, kept in shape with. So no, I don't have any. I have lots of work, let's put it that way.
Because as we will both agree to, horses can be ridden every day. And so if you're talking to somebody, a professional trainer out there that'd like to try this model, what are some of the things that they need to be aware of? And do they carry insurance? Do they have to really get more network than before? Or do you feel like this just kept, you looked at me and I got, again, my listening audience says, it seems like you don't have any problems finding the business.
No, because I've been doing this for a while. So, name recognition, really helps. Yes, you definitely need insurance, trainer's insurance. You have to cover your own policy for your safety. But then on top of that, if you can get your name in at different barns, people really respect a good name. So if you're at a big facility, then it's amazing how many clients you can pick up at that facility. And then, like I said, I've been here doing this for quite a long time now. So I'll just have people call me, to pick up work. But really, the bulk of my business comes from personal referrals from clients that I already have, going to a big couple facilities, and then you get a lot of business from that. And my day is full.
So if you're just joining us, we're talking to Alexis Losey, professional horse trainer at Crown One Farms in mid-Missouri. And one of the things we do want to talk about is when you train these horses, they're putting hours on the seats. Do you ever go into young horses that need a lot of training, colt starting? What level of riding do you put yourself into? Because let's face it, we're not all 20-year-olds. And so we have to wear and tear of our bodies, very important. So what determines what type of horse you're going to go after? And do you protect yourself in that? Is that a concern of yours?
Yeah, it has been, since I had kids. My kids are now 19 and 17. After I had my children, I was really careful about what kind of horses that I sat on. So I used to ride younger horses, not a big deal, and I enjoyed working with young horses, the 3 to 5 year olds. But then as I got older, I was just a little bit more careful. I don't want to get hurt. Nobody wants to get bucked off. So I pushed those horses onto other clients. And so you do. Your lifestyle, where you are in life determines what kind of horses you want. So now my clientele, they're more educated horses. I don't go for, and I don't have to seek out horses now that are the rank, that are the problem horses. That is not my specialty. I'm more for dressage clients who have dressage horses. So I don't deal with, problem horses. And I'll push them off to trainers who do deal with those kind of horses. And it's great because I have a network, so I can say, hey, take your horse to this person. Or if you want a young horse started, I know several people who specify in working with young horses. So I push those horses to them. So it's great that all of us in Kansas City here, there's a network of us that we can pick from. And I think you should push that horse towards whoever specializes in that area.
So I like this business model to professional horse riders that have and trainers that have reached a pre-St. George level, and they just don't want, economy-wise or cost-wise, they can move into this type of business model and be highly successful. And that way you don't seem to have the stress of having clients at your location all the time and having the stress of maintaining these horses on a day-by-day basis. Because let's face it, having 4 to 10 horses at your barn is a lot of work on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, that's a lot of work. It's a lot to manage, which isn't horrible, but your body breaks down from riding so many horses. I like to do a healthy mix of riding and teaching. So I can't ride, 9 horses a day because your body just can't handle that much work over a long period of time. So, if I can ride 3 horses a day, great. Some days I might have to ride 5, but that's not as often. So you have to understand what your body's, capabilities are, and that I don't want to break my body down very fast. So I can now say, nope, I'm going to teach a certain amount a day and then ride a certain amount a day so that my body stays healthy.
There you go. And there you have it. So if you're a professional trainer and horse rider, this is one model you can look into. Alexis Losey would like to thank you for joining us and like to have you come back and tell us exactly how the model's working, because you've been doing it for about a year now. Is that fair?
A couple of years now, yeah,
well,
definitely.
Congratulations. All right, everyone. I want you to stay with us. We've got more Better Horses coming your way right after these messages.
Hi, I'm Dr. Dylan Luter, a specialist in equine performance medicine at the Kansas State University Veterinary Health Center. Our new service focuses on lameness diagnosis, advanced imaging, physical therapy, and regenerative medicine for horses with injuries preventing them from performing at their best. We can treat a variety of conditions and design a customized rehabilitation plan to meet the needs of each client and their horse. Visit us at ksvhc.org, the Veterinary Health Center, to discover, to teach, to heal.
Hey, it's Matt at Heritage Tractor. Around here, we don't just sell tractors. We stand behind what we run. And we believe the difference between John Deere and the rest is more than just paint deep. We put the John Deere 1025R head-to-head against the competition. Spoiler alert, it wasn't even close. From smarter hydraulics to easier maintenance and a smoother ride, the 1025R was built for real work, not just showroom specs. Want proof? See the side-by-side results at heritagetractor.com. Or better yet, stop in and feel the difference for yourself.
Established in 1956, the Pinto Horse Association of America was formed to welcome all types of equines and maintain their show records and pedigrees. PTHA currently has over 88,000 members with 157,000 registered pintos. There are currently 3 separate registries: the Color Registry, the Solid Registry, and the Long Ear Registry. We welcome all levels of competition within a family-friendly environment. Become a member, register, and add value to your horse. For more information, check out the website pintoworld.com.
Get quality you can stand on. Hoof Grip is the proprietary formula that provides shock absorption for your animals with no ice buildup, slipping, cracking, or sogginess, making it the safest, most comfortable, and maintenance-free flooring on the market. Hoof Grip installs quickly and easily over existing surfaces, is easy to clean, and withstands extreme heat or cold. From vet offices to barns, wash racks to trailers and more. Visit hoofgrip.com to find a dealer in your area today.
We're here for the hardworking, the resilient. We're for the people who measure their days by what needs to get done, not by hours. Where kids learn responsibility at a young age and generations work side by side. Where work doesn't pause for holidays or bad weather. It just gets harder. Where value and hard work means more than the clothes you wear. We're Kleinschmidt's Western Store, Higginsville, Missouri.
It's time to go with United Mosquito and Fly Control's premier fly system for fly control in your barn, providing relief for horses from the stress of fighting flies, and also makes the barn more pleasant for everyone in the barn. Easy, effective, and safe. With United Mosquito and Fly Control, we provide a full service. You as the barn owner don't have to do anything. We go everywhere and take care of everything with our friendly fast service. Call today at 913-558-3814 or email Paul at unitedmosquito.com.
And welcome back to Better Horses Radio. I'm your host, Ed Adams.
And hey, everybody, it's Susie Arbo.
And we are talking all about running boarding barn facilities all across the United States. And Susie, you came across some interesting stats.
Yeah, there was some new research out there. It was actually a 2025 survey of equine industry professionals found that a majority of boarding providers struggle to make money on board alone. About 60% of these actual owners lose money every month. 29% break even, and only a very small percentage make a meaningful profit from boarding fees alone. So right there, you can see that this is a tough industry, and we get into this because we love horses, right? And we love everything that comes with it. And so it can be a challenge though.
It is a passion project. I agree with that. And I should probably confess that to all our listening audiences out there, when I talked to Kelly Sitter and I also talked to Alexis Losi, we talked about some of the mental challenges that you have because you're always working by yourself. You're always training horses and you're always out doing this. And you really have to have some cognitive thinking skills running a boarding barn. But Susie, what is some things we can do to help create a positive outlook with so many challenges in boarding barns, that type of facility?
Yes. One thing that is super interesting, if you think about it, Ed, but the average human has 60,000 thoughts a day. I mean, that is a lot of thoughts, right? And so, and we know just on average that 80% of those thoughts are actually negative. And it's not like we wake up every day and want to think negative. Like that's not the case. It's just the way that our brain is kind of programmed. And so if you're somebody that, you're in the equine industry and you are, working alone and, and your horse, you can talk to it, you can do whatever you want with that. But, at the end of the day, your thoughts are really what matters, and it determines the quality of your life. And so even just making sure that you get your thoughts in a good spot and a good place, and that you constantly do some affirmations to yourself to say things like, you know what, I bet horses are, obviously if you're listening to this radio show and podcast that you really enjoy horses. So telling yourself like, this is good and healthy for me to be out in nature today. I'm using my body to clean the stalls, and I'm getting stronger. I'm burning calories, right? I'm with animals. We know that in the presence of an animal, actually, a good thing to remember is that our blood pressure lowers. We actually have a release of dopamines in our brain, and it activates that reward system in your head. And so it's just like a good workout, right? Like you just feel better when you're in the presence of animals. And so reminding yourself of those kinds of things, that there are so many joys. Along with horses have owners, right? And some of our best friends in this world have come through the horse industry. And so just even telling yourself good things like, hey, you know what? I have relationships, with people, and that's good for our mental health as well, to have those healthy relationships. And so there is a lot of positives that come out of, kind of working alone, that kind of thing, as long as you keep your thoughts in a good spot. And naturally the negatives are going to pour in, and you just redirect, you say it. I would say stop, not helpful. And then I get back on a better track.
We also mentioned that in boarding barns that the boarders make the barn. So when you take a moment and you bring in horses, and I fell into this trap, I always look at the horses first, but you should actually look at the owners more than anything else. And does that owner really align well with your personality? So I look for, if you're looking at a boarding barn, look at the owner who owns that boarding barn. And as a boarding barn owner, take a look at that individual coming into that barn. And does that personality fit your personality? And do you see a working relationship? And that really makes it whether or not you're going to enjoy your own space or whether you're going to enjoy your own barn. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, it does. And we've over the years too, we've kind of cross-checked people and have made phone calls. If we know somebody's coming from one barn to another, and maybe there's a reason that they left, right? Maybe there was some, maybe somebody owed somebody money, that kind of thing. And so, the horse world's a small world. And so just even doing some extra checking to kind of find out about, different people that might rent from you or board from you is actually a really good thing. And I just feel like, we always say, I'm a therapist, Ed, but we always say whenever we hire people for the business, you can't really change somebody's personality. You can always teach them more things or, coach them through things, but you really can't. So having good fits for your barn, positive people that pay on time, people that are, respectful of your barn hours, that kind of thing it can be really, really helpful when you're thinking about doing horse boarding.
And with so many other verticals that we get into, it's really just a business, right? This is probably the only vertical you can get in with so much emotion involved into the business itself. So it changes from, and I love that stat, by the way, not making a lot of money in a boarding barn. Isn't that really because we make it an emotional type project? And we say, okay, I'll do that for you, or I'll do this. And that the boarders really never realize the expense that the boarding barns are really taking on.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and we develop rapport and relationships with these people, and they become some of our really good friends. And so then it's hard, to go back and ask them and say, hey, you know what, we missed you this month on your board or whatnot. And so, yeah, it is. It's our emotions are completely wrapped up in everything. We're emotional beings.
Yeah, and you really have to separate that. And we recommend that, you send out invoices, make sure everybody understands it's not just a friend to friend. This is a business. We do have to cover all the cost. And I think that's very, very important. And I think it's important we continue to do that. Hey, Susie, I want to thank you for joining me this week. It's been a fun little show, and I think this is a very important topic to discuss.
It is. And whether you have boarded horses in the past, whether you are a client or a barn owner, or you're just in the industry, you can probably understand and learn something from this show. I know I did.
Absolutely. And above all, we want to make sure our boarding barns stay as healthy as possible. And if you have a good idea, be sure to let us know by checking out betterhorses.com. And if you want to listen to this radio show and all the other encore performances we have, check out our show on your podcast, wherever you get your podcast.
We also have the Better Horses newspaper, and please follow us on social media. We are on Facebook, and we are constantly going around, going to different events, covering shows. And so check us out on social media as well. Also airing on Equus TV, RFD TV, the Cowboy Channel. You can find us in a lot of different places, Ed.
Absolutely. Also on our local TV stations. But you know what? We also want to take time out and thank the people behind the scenes, our radio producer, Brianna Johnson, and our TV producer, Kelly Creech, and naturally, all our sponsors. Susie, I always enjoy having you on our TV show. You do a fabulous job as our co-host, and we are looking forward to a very, very exciting 2026 as we plan to go to more shows and seeing a lot more professional trainers out there.
That's right. We're looking forward to it.
All right, well, that wraps it up for this week. All right, everyone, I want you to be good buckaroos and buckarettes. Mind your mom and dads and be brave, but don't take any chances out there and don't get bucked off. Until next time, I'm Ed Adams.
And I'm Susie Arvo.
Happy trails and always ride for the brand.